last hour and a half, we've been pelted by the outer rain bands of Hurricane Milton, which I know it's a Cat 4. We saw some slight weakening over the last couple hours, but a Cat 5 is 157 miles per hour. This is 155. There's a saying here in Florida, know your zone, know your home. Because of the building codes here, as long as you're safe from the surge in some of these buildings, we're going to be able to take on the winds. But I got to be honest here, we could have a direct hit from Milton later tonight. Landfall is going to be between 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And right now, because of a south jog yesterday with Hurricane Milton, Sarasota could have a direct hit.
The Florida Department of Transportation opened the shoulders on Interstate 4 and Interstate 75 going north to help speed up evacuations, and tolls have been suspended. The Florida National Guard has also mobilized 5,000 troops to assist with response efforts. Some remote areas in North Carolina are still cut off nearly 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene, as volunteer groups scramble to get much-needed supplies to people there. Griff Jenkins has more from Asheville, North Carolina.
Savage Operations, that's this group. Brandon Gonzalez is one of the volunteers. Tell me what you're doing here, and also yesterday you recovered a body with your teams.
It's amazing what we've been doing here. To give you an example, the first day we only had 2 volunteers, and we're all the way up to 400 people coming in and out of here every day, skilled laborers that know how to do so many things in these mountains. So that's something people don't think about.
And you're taking in supplies to these cut-off communities. You're taking care of livestock. You've also got the cattle and others that are stranded, and people are still needing to get water.
Samaritan's Purse continues to minister to Hurricane Helene victims right in their backyard. Steve Jordahl has the latest.
The Billy Graham Training Center at the Cove sits right outside Asheville, North Carolina, one of the areas hardest hit by Helene. The Cove itself is fine. It's on a hillside. It's being used as a staging area for first responders and aid groups. One of those groups is Samaritan's Purse, led by Franklin Graham and Billy's grandson, Edward, who spoke to Fox and Friends the other day to give an update. He says the damage is extensive.
It's a war zone. It's catastrophic. And this will take years to rebuild. And some of it it'll never look the same.
The first few days were spent on search and rescue missions. Now, Graham says they're making supply runs.
We've leased 2 Blackhawks, and we're using our own. But we're taking supplies, generators right now. We were doing water and food. Now it's generation and heating supplies, communications with Starlink.
Fox and Friends host Lawrence B. Jones wanted to know how Samaritan's Purse has been so successful where others struggle.
What are you guys doing differently that is reaching all of these folks?
Yeah, work through the church. The church is going to make sure the resources get there quickly.
And it wouldn't be an interview with a Graham without a gospel presentation.
That's why Samaritan's Purse comes with our volunteers. We want to serve people that think God may have forsaken them or forgotten about them. God loved them so much, he sent his only son, Jesus Christ, to die on a cross for him. So that's why our volunteers, that's why we come.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
The Biden administration is facing backlash for their delayed response to the victims of Hurricane Helene. Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton.
When it's using disaster money to bus and house illegal migrants, that's fine. When they need to find hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for gender studies majors, they can find that money too. But they couldn't find the money to get the people of North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia the help they needed immediately.
More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hi, this is Alec Frank from Minnesota. We had a house fire on May 4th, and we live in a camper all summer long. And there's 2 things that never change. One is God's sovereign grace and the words that he gave us in the Bible, and 2 is the inspiration coming from AFR. We played AFR in the house every day when we do homeschool, and we play AFR in the camper to get our day started. Thank you to all you people on AFR that put out awesome inspiration, whether you're going through a house fire or no matter what you're going through in life.
In honor of Brother Don Wildman and his wife Linda, it's Founders Day on American Family Radio. It's been more than 40 years since Reverend Don Wildman felt a calling from the Lord and began pouring all his energy and resources into starting a new ministry. Since then, countless lives have been touched by God through AFA and AFR.
The only promise I've ever made to people who give us money, that is, we'll be the best stewards of their money, their gifts, as we can be.
To help us honor Brother Don's hard work and faithfulness to the Lord, you can call 877-616-2396 and make a pledge of support to AFR. That's 877-616-2396. Or give online at afr.net. It's day 2 of Share-a-thon, and it's Founders Day on American Family Radio.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Share-a-thon. Welcome back, I should say. Hopefully you've been listening this morning to day 2 of Share-a-thon, 2 of 3. We got tomorrow. We'll wrap it up tomorrow evening, tomorrow afternoon sometime here on American Family Radio for our Share-a-thon. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Hey, good morning, Tim.
Fred Jackson. Good morning,
Hi there,
Fred.
Tim, how are you?
Doing well. I was on with Jenna Ellis this morning, and we had a good hour, and then Jeff and Brother Bird and Rob Wise, and it's just been a good morning. I don't want to forget those Alex and Bert and all those folks who got up real early this morning to get us started.
Yeah,
but it's
Rob West, too?
Yeah, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said Rob.
You said Rob Wise.
Well,
but you've been up.
No, I said Rob is wise.
Oh, Rob.
You misunderstood me. I said Rob
that is
is
entirely
wise.
possible.
His last name is West.
My wife tells me that all the time.
That you're wise?
No, the other thing. You misunderstood me.
You misunderstood me. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. Wesley had an accident last night with my oldest son, and
he's okay.
He's okay. Yeah, but he had to go get some stitches in his head.
He was cleaning his garage.
Yeah.
And putting some things up. And I didn't realize when you said this morning to our staff during devotion to let folks know what had happened to Wesley, and because he had to go get stitches last night.
Right.
And was there, as most people know, in an emergency room, it was several hours. But you mentioned a battery had fallen from one of the shelves.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like one of those larger batteries, 6-volt battery or something that goes in a flashlight. It was one of those big batteries that goes in a lawnmower.
Yeah.
That could have done some serious damage. But he wound up with stitches.
Yeah, a few stitches.
I saw him a few minutes
above
ago.
his eyebrow, but I told him to walk it off.
Rub some sand on it.
Yeah, rub some sand on it, like our coaches told us, right?
And I did tell him, I said, it's right in his eyebrow, and it goes up at an angle, and I said, that is going to look good when you get a little scar.
Little Charles Bronson action going on?
Exactly.
Something like that?
You're going to look like a brawler.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, he's okay, but not feeling so well here this morning after that accident. But, so I was up late last night. Thus, I mispronounced a gentleman's name I should know. I know it's Rob West, not Rob Wise. All right, so Share-a-thon it is here on American Family Radio. Set it up for us, Ed.
Absolutely. It is Share-a-thon. We are mondo excited, folks, because our staff gets to interact with you.
Yes.
Those of you who are calling in, and some of you have already talked to our staff members yesterday and already this morning. Thank you so much for calling and giving to American Family Radio. 3 days in the fall, 3 days in the spring, we have our Share-a-thon. And our Share-a-thon always has a theme, and our theme this fall, is Revive Us Again. And the scripture verse that is kind of the wellspring of that idea for us for the 3 days is Psalm 85, verses 6 and 7, and I'm going to read it for you. It says, will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you? Show us your unfailing love, Lord, and grant us your salvation. So we're encouraging you to call and make your pledge.
No, we're not encouraging. We're asking. We're demanding it.
We're desperately asking. How's that?
I'm just going to try to demand to see if it works.
Hey.
We're requiring you to call in. No, I'm kidding.
No.
But a lot of people already have.
Yes.
Called in yesterday. They called in early this morning. They gave before Share-a-thon ever started. We want to say thank you to everybody who's given.
In fact, I'm going to read some of the folks who have given. We have a computer screen, folks, that has all this stuff on it for us.
Right.
So Judy from Plainview, Texas, Martin from Hamburg, Arkansas, Jonia from Waveland, Mississippi, Jean from Clear Lake, Iowa, Danielle from Wichita, Kansas, David from Ottawa, Ohio, Roberta from, looks like Russiaville, Indiana. I hope that's not misinformation. Out of Russiaville.
What is that?
You get that, Russia?
I got your misinformation.
So anyway, lots of folks have already given. Thank you so much, David from Fletcher, Oklahoma. William from High Point, North Carolina. Thank you so much for giving. And if you have not given and would like to, here's how you can do it.
Yeah.
Here's the number, 877-616-2396. That's 877-616-2396. Or you can give online safely and securely at AFR.net. Some people prefer to just do it by going online. Some people don't like to talk to strangers on the phone. But you can go to AFR.net if that's.
But the thing about the beautiful thing about our volunteers and our staff who are answering the phones, they're friendly.
Yes,
they're
they
nice, and they are receptive. Now, they're not counselors, so you know what I'm saying. But
yes,
but they can take a credit card.
Yes, that's
and they
right.
can say thank you.
Yeah,
right.
If you're needing counseling on whether you should marry your fiance,
call your pastor.
Yeah, you need to call your pastor.
That's what he gets paid for. Pastors are going, no. That's not what no. Anyway, all right, Fred, we've got some news. Obviously, the big news across the country is the hurricane about to hit Florida.
Yeah, Hurricane Milton, and the news is still dire. It has backed off a little bit to a Category 4, but we're still talking winds of 145 miles per hour. It is supposed to hit the landmass there in the Florida Peninsula later on tonight and through the day tomorrow. And the evacuation has gone well, but there are some people who are insisting on staying. Tampa, still going to get hurt with that big surge. They're talking about waters up to 15 feet higher. A little bit further south, Sarasota, Fort Myers, all of that area. In fact, as we're sitting here right now, the outer bands of Milton have also already arrived in that area. But the mayor of Tampa, Mayor Jane Castor, had this very serious warning for those who are still considering trying to ride this thing out. Cut number 2.
What would you say to people tonight who are saying, you know what, I'm going to ride this out, I've ridden others out? What would you say to people who aren't heeding those evacuation orders?
Well, I can tell you right now that they may have done that in others. There's never been one like this. And this, Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Yeah, that's pretty
That
tight.
is grim. That's just, and listen, she's not kidding.
No.
I mean, that's a couple people may escape, but you are, it's like diving into crocodile-infested waters. If there's a bunch of you who try it, maybe one makes it to the other side. Everyone else is getting eaten.
Yeah. I heard a guy being interviewed this morning. He lives in St. Pete's, just below Tampa there, and he has ridden out previous hurricanes.
Yeah.
He said even with Helene, the water came up to the front door, which was the most. That scared him a bit. But now everybody is saying this is going to be the worst in more than 100 years.
Yes.
And so yesterday he packed up the precious things in his car. His wife and kids had already left, but he packed their passports, the artwork that's important, family albums, all that sort of thing. And just saying, okay, we're going to leave. They're going about 100 miles inland. They have relatives there. But this is, and there's another warning, too, from Governor Ron DeSantis. He's warning people about not to take advantage of the storm. So we're talking about looters here. Cut number 1.
This is not going to be an opportunity for folks to take advantage of people. If you think you're going to go in and loot, you got another thing coming. You go into somebody's house after the storm passes, think that you're going to be able to commit crimes. You're going to get in really serious trouble, and quite frankly, you don't know what's behind that door in a Second Amendment state. So do not try to take advantage of people who are suffering because of the results of this storm.
Yeah, so, and this is strange, too. This is going to maintain the hurricane status right through the state until it gets to the Atlantic Ocean. So it's not going to back off that much all the way over to the East Coast.
Because we mentioned yesterday, and most people know this, Florida's a very flat state.
Yeah.
And by that we mean there's no mountains. There's not a lot of natural terrain that will break up the force of the storm.
Resistance.
It's just going to roll over.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm watching a live cam of Siesta Key. I've been there before. That's a beach around Sarasota, and so this. And I was the storm surge, of course, the winds, if you 130, 140, 150 mile an hour sustained winds. And I don't know how far a space that would entail, maybe 15, 20 miles, be that intense. I don't know, maybe less than that. But then out from that, you still got tropical force winds, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, sustained for an hour or two, or maybe longer, who knows, 3 or 4 hours. And I was watching, and we mentioned this yesterday, I was watching people show that there's debris everywhere from the hurricane from 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. People have cleaned up their yards, their property, and they've stacked stuff up for the garbage trucks to come by, the dump trucks to take off to the landfill.
And they were doing the best they could to get that stuff, but there's a lot left.
Yeah, but if you can imagine, especially for the storm surge area, you got water, that's going to lift all that stuff up and take it who knows where. But then you got the wind coming in, so even if you're not close to the ocean where the storm surge would affect you, you're still going to have all that debris flying around.
Yeah, and it can be extremely dangerous. You mentioned, we were talking about this morning, 2x4s, but also
become missiles.
Yeah, but also wood that's splintered, nails, all that stuff flying around at 140 miles an hour becomes lethal.
Are the Weather Channel guys going to stay there on the beach?
I don't know about that, but I was just going to mention, be praying for the first responders, because there will be first responders who stay behind. And, we read these stories all the time that there are those, residents, and they'll go out and try to rescue them. Despite all the warnings that have been leading up to this, there are going to be first responders that are going to be some of the hospitals, they believe, like in the Tampa area, Sarasota, they believe they're 5-6 stories that they can be sustained.
Yeah.
And so there may be people that are going to be housed in those areas, first responders, that the first opportunity they get can start rescues.
Listen, there's so much that goes on of a destructive nature in these storms. Of course, a lot of times power will be out, but sometimes power lines are down and the power's not out.
Yes.
And that becomes a danger for people walking around and for first responders. It's just helpful if people leave when they can, when they're told to evacuate.
Yeah, and I think the vast majority of people have left and did leave, especially after what happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I had some friends that drove from Orlando to Charlotte. Some other people I know went from Vero Beach to Jacksonville. Most people went north who were in the central part of the state to stay away from the coast.
Right.
Listening to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio, and we would like you to support us financially, folks. That's why we're stopping our regular programming for the most part on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We do this 3 days in the fall, 3 days in the spring. Let's hear from one of our listeners, and then we'll come back.
Hi, my name is Shamal White, and I give my deepest condolences to the passing, and my deepest prayers and love and thoughts go out to the family. As I listened to him, I never knew him or anything like that, but he was a wonderful, strong, godly, fair man, which I'm striving to be to this day. I listen to the stations every day. I am grateful for the family. I love y'all with all my heart. Please keep up the good work. Y'all are deeply in my prayers. I love y'all. Please stay strong. And if there's anything I can do to help, I am willing to do so. All praises go to the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Wow, I mentioned this. We all mentioned this. We love these listener testimonies during Share-a-thon. For the most part, I don't get to hear these until we play them. Like you said, let's play a listener testimony. And folks, I'm just going to tell you, it is so encouraging when we hear how God is using American Family Radio. And it's encouraging to see we have 6,829 total pledges right now. That's a lot of families. Tim, you always mention a lot of that represents, some of them are single individuals, but a lot of families are represented by that. That's an encouragement to us, too. It is our fall Share-a-thon, and Revive Us Again is our theme. Until 11 o'clock, folks, we have
Central Time.
We have a Founders Day $50,000 challenge. Today is Founders Day because we are taking this day in Share-a-thon especially to honor our founder, Don Wildman. So this is our Founders Day $50,000 challenge. Now, what does that mean? It means that a group of supporters has generously donated leading up to Share-a-thon, and they are now challenging you, the listeners, to come alongside them to support the work of AFA and American Family Radio. Here's how you do it. 877-616-2396. That's 877-616-2396. Or you can give online at afr.net. And I do want to mention that we do have premiums available for our fall Share-a-thon for a one-time gift of $150,000. Yeah, $150,000. Listen, you give $150,000.
We'll send you 2 books.
We'll send.
No, we don't care.
We'll Tim and I'll come and we'll take you out to dinner.
Yeah, we'll.
So this is. I'm sorry, for a one-time gift of $150 or more, you will receive a small Revive Us Again travel bag. Now, if you become a Great Commission partner with a monthly gift of $30 or more.
What's a Great Commission partner again?
A Great Commission partner is someone who gives monthly, and it's like an automatic draft out of your bank account or your debit card, credit card, whatever. And it's helpful to you and it's helpful to us. It's helpful to you because you don't have to write out a check and find an envelope and go through all of that.
What a hassle.
It just comes out like a lot of us do. We pay bills. I have
your bills online. They just come out every month.
Yes, just comes out. You don't have to worry about it.
We can do that for you.
And it helps us because it gives us a better picture of what we have coming in. It's better for us to budget. So if you become a Great Commission partner with a monthly gift of $30 or more, you will not only receive the Revive Us Again travel bag, but a copy of Tim Wildman's new book, Because These Things Matter. It is a compilation of cultural commentaries that Tim has written over the years that have appeared in our monthly magazine.
They're poignant.
They are. Some of them are humorous, but all of them, Tim, are insightful.
Yeah.
So Tim's
Thank
new
you,
book.
Ed. I didn't ask for that compliment.
You didn't?
I just want people to know you and I didn't get together off the air, and I said you compliment me on my book.
Right.
Did we do that? No, we didn't do that.
No, but I've read it.
Right.
Because I was involved in overseeing the editing process, and there wasn't a whole lot of editing involved, but we always do have someone.
So anyway, we're going to send them the book.
The book and the Revive Us Again travel bag if they become a Great Commission partner.
Right.
For $30.
What do they need to do to qualify for that?
If they become a Great Commission partner with a monthly gift of $30 or more, you receive the travel bag and the book, Because These Things
What
Matter.
phone number do I call to make that pledge?
The number is 877-616-2396. 877-616-2396. We have folks waiting right now to take your call. They are, we have some of them are guests who have come in to help us. A lot of them are staff members. Some of you probably talked to Steve Jordahl yesterday afternoon after the program. After this program, he went over there to answer calls. So you never know who you might find on the other end of the line. You can also give online if you want at afr.net. But until 11 o'clock Central Time, we are in the midst of a Founders Day $50,000 challenge.
Absolutely. Well, you're listening to Share-a-thon here on American Family Radio. Tim here with Ed and Fred, and we thank you as always for listening. Listen, in about 5, 6, 7 minutes, we're going to have on our good friend Gary Haven from Waco, the Waco area, Waco, Texas area, and he's a helicopter pilot, and he went to North Carolina to help in relief efforts last week, and he's going to tell us about it. So we look forward to hearing from Gary Haven in just a few moments. What else you got, Fred?
Well, we had a court victory yesterday for a gentleman by the name of Jack Phillips. I think if you've listened to us over the last 10, 12 years, you've heard Jack Phillips' name mentioned a number of times. He's a baker from Colorado.
Yeah. Just wants to bake cakes and cupcakes and sell them. That's all he wants to do.
And he will sell cakes to
anybody.
Anybody. But what happened was he got hauled into court because some homosexuals wanted him to bake a cake to celebrate a homosexual marriage. He's a Christian. I can't do that. So that's gone through the courts. That went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. But as soon as that United States Supreme Court decision came down, he was challenged again, this time by a transgender. They wanted a transgender cake. I think it was pink on the inside, blue on the outside, or something like that. But yesterday, the Colorado Supreme Court basically shut that particular case down. So we are celebrating with Jack Phillips today. Jack Phillips is one story. We've talked now about Christian photographers.
Right.
We've talked about
florists,
all being challenged. And it's not because they hate homosexuals or transgenders, whatever the case may be. They just do not want to use their craft to celebrate something they know is biblically sin.
And it's a free speech issue.
Yes.
I mean, nobody in their right mind would require a Jewish baker to produce a cake with a swastika on it.
Yeah.
All right? Nobody would expect that to happen, and people would be horrified by it. And that's all Jack Phillips was just saying is, you can't force me to make speech that goes against my religious convictions.
Yeah. Right. It wasn't like he was standing at the door of his bakery going, checking people's sexual identity. Oh, are you gay?
Show me your sexual orientation card.
But the reverse of that is true. These Christians are being targeted.
Oh, yeah.
It's not because there aren't other bakers in town.
No.
Right.
Or florists.
Right.
Or photographers.
Who will do the cakes?
Who will do it?
Yeah.
No. These people are being targeted because they have Christian standards.
They wanted to punish Jack Phillips. Well, the good news is, and hopefully we'll get Jack Phillips on. He's from Colorado. He's the baker in Colorado. I think this whole saga has been going on 12 years.
12
From beginning to end. And it's been to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, now the Colorado Supreme Court on a separate case. And so he's won. He's won the case. I think yesterday the Supreme Court of Colorado ruled on a technicality, but hey, it's the same purpose, really. I mean, same result. He won.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have been praying for him. All right, we're going to take a short time out. When we get back, we'll talk to Gary Haven, who got in his helicopter and flew to North Carolina from Texas to help in relief efforts after the hurricane damage that was done. And we'll talk to him about his experience there when we return from this short time out. You're listening to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Then they seized him and led him away, bringing him unto the high priest's house. Peter followed at a distance, and when they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat among them. After Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was carried to the house of Joseph Caiaphas. Caiaphas was the high priest that year, although it was his father-in-law Annas who had the real power. In all probability, the party walked up a flight of steps in the southern part of Jerusalem to reach the house of Caiaphas. Some steps have been excavated which led to the spot where many believe the house of Caiaphas stood. It is possible to walk those very steps today. The Church of St. Peter in Gallicanto, which means cockcrow, is a lovely little church building constructed by the Augustinian fathers on the site where they accept as that of the house of Caiaphas. The church gets its name from the fact that Peter denied he knew Jesus 3 times in the courtyard before the 3 a.m. hour, the time of the cockcrow. In the life of Jesus, we have some hours between 3 o'clock in the morning and about 6 o'clock in the morning, during which we don't know what happened to him. A visitor to the Church of St. Peter in Gallicanto today will be taken down into the basement to examine a pit carved from the rock. The pit is very small and had only one opening large enough for a person to enter it. The opening is at the top of the pit. The pit was part of the jail located there. Perhaps Jesus, being tried and condemned by an illegal makeshift Sanhedrin, meeting in the early hours, was brought to this pit to spend the next few hours. In the 88th Psalm, one can read what could have been the feelings of Jesus if indeed he was lowered into this pit. Peter denied his Lord that night. He did so, I feel, not so much from cowardice as from bewilderment and confusion. He did not know what Jesus expected him to do. Did he not get rebuked by the Lord in the Garden of Gethsemane just a short time before, when he fought for the safety and release of Jesus? Certainly Peter was confused as to what course of action to follow. Standing on the balcony of the Church of St. Peter in Gallicanto, you can see where the courtyard was that Peter denied his Lord. And as you gaze in that direction, you aren't quite as fast to point the accusing finger at the big fisherman. You can recall those times when you too denied the Lord by silence or inaction. It is one thing to find fault and blame. It is another thing altogether to take a very deep look into one's own commitment. We aren't nearly as perfect as we sometimes think we are. As you leave this beautiful little church building, you do so thinking that you need to spend more time on the log in your own eye and less on the splinter in your neighbor's eye. Jesus was speaking to each of us when he gave that advice.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
It's day 2 of Share-a-thon, and it's Founders Day. We're honoring Brother Don Wildman for his hard work and faithfulness to the Lord.
Faithfulness is the word.
You can join us in honoring Brother Don through your support of this ministry. Call now at 877-616-2396 and make your pledge. That's 877-616-2396. Or give online at afr.net. It's Founders Day on American Family Radio.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio. Thanks for listening. As always, we thank those who have already given. We're nearing 7,000 pledges. That represents, for the most part, 7,000 families who've given to American Family Radio either prior to Share-a-thon or yesterday or earlier this morning. We just say thank you very much for your making AFR possible. And, we don't take it for granted. And it costs a lot of money to own and operate this many radio stations, nearly 170 radio stations across America. We just bought a new radio stations in central Alabama. We'll cover Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, and we're excited about that. So we want to grow. We want to grow too. So we thank you, everybody who's made a pledge thus far. We'll be having Share-a-thon through tomorrow evening. I don't know what time we'll stop, but Share-a-thons last 3 days, 3 days in the spring, 3 days in the fall. And the phone number to call and make a gift and be as generous as you possibly can is 877-616-2396. Again, I'll give that number. Call 877-616-2396. What kind of match you said we got going on? Or
well, we call it a Founders Day $50,000 challenge.
Okay.
So today is Founders Day, the middle day of our 3 days Share-a-thon, during which we honor the founder, your dad, Don Wildman. And so we have a $50,000 Founders Day challenge going on. And what does that mean? It means that a group of supporters has generously donated leading up to Share-a-thon this amount of money, $50,000, and they are now challenging our listeners to come alongside them to support the work of AFA and AFR.
All right. Well, many of you, probably all of you, have been paying attention to the relief efforts, the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, which hit Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina, South Carolina, and Alabama too. But mostly, a lot of the devastation was the flooding that took place in Tennessee and Carolina and Georgia. But joining us on the phone is a gentleman who went to be a part of the relief efforts there to help out his fellow Americans. And Gary Haven joins us from Texas. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Tim.
Hey, Gary, you came by the studio and offices, 10 days ago or so. You were on your way with your helicopter to North Carolina. What were you going to do, and what did you see and experience?
Well, Tim, it was terrible and wonderful. Terrible, of course, was the devastation. Tens of thousands of people were just in a terrible way. Many of their homes have been washed away. They were blessed to get out with their lives with little or no possessions, by the way. The electricity still out for thousands of people. The water systems have all been contaminated, so there's no fresh water. And there were health care needs. There were people that needed insulin and a variety of other meds. It was just an apocalypse of desolation up there. It was really hard to believe. And, the wonderful part of it were the thousands of volunteers that showed up that on their own money, their own time, were doing so many things, whether it was the good old boys on their mud buggies going up the sides of mountains and rescuing people and bringing supplies. I worked, of course, with Operation Airdrop, which had over 50 private helicopters show up and set up base at Hickory Airport. And the ops center was manned by a number of volunteers who coordinated finding the needs in the field and acquiring supplies and medicines and then putting them on helicopters. I did an average of 4 missions a day where I would take out food, water, and medicine, and then when necessary to bring people with healthcare needs back into Hickory Airport where they had set up a medical clinic. And it really was, I've used the term a thing of beauty, to see private individuals stepping up. I want to mention that the Share-a-thon is a major donor of your Share-a-thon for more than 20 years, I guess. I choose where to give my resources, and your organization is one of those trusted organizations, much like these good people that have shown up there to meet the needs of people that were in dire straits. So I really encourage people to trust your organization. I make sure that a certain amount of my funds go to telling people the good news, and you guys do that in a unique and a very effective way. I know many people that have been saved from listening to one of your radio stations, and so I encourage people to do that. They can trust you. You're doing good work. And we watched the government up there fail people. They were late to the party, and when they did show up, they didn't have any significant resources or money. So this is a good example why your organization and so many other people are the only ones that can meet the needs out there. The government's not going to solve problems. In fact, they were more of a hindrance than they were any kind of solution. So I really encourage people to participate in the telethon.
Thank you, Gary. Hey, we're talking to Gary Haven, who took his helicopter, his personal helicopter, from Texas to North Carolina to help out with the relief last week. And 4 missions a day you did for, I don't know, a week or so. And then by missions, I mean you take people. Were you airdropping? Were you like dropping a basket of supplies down to people, or were you picking people up? How did that work exactly?
Yeah, you have to land. You throw something out the window. There's no telling what's going to happen. So you had to find landing spots, and that was interesting. You know, this was a mountainous region. So much of the damage were from the rivers that just came up historically high and washed away homes and roads and bridges, and so we would land in the parking lot of a fire station or on a piece of a road that was remaining or people's yards, and that really made it concerning for a pilot, because you're going into places, you're trying to spot the remains of power lines and trees that had fallen, and but we were able to get in there and get the job done.
Yeah.
In a mountainous area, which everything's okay in a helicopter when you're flying along mountain ridges, unless your engine stops. A lot of prayer going on in that.
Yeah,
I guess. I assure you.
Absolutely. Well, Gary, thanks for joining us and sharing your experience, and I'm glad you were able to go and help those folks in North Carolina. I know a lot needs to be done going forward, but at least helping them with the immediate needs, you and all the other private helicopters who came in to help out in North Carolina. Take care. We appreciate it very much, brother.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Great.
God bless.
All right.
I don't think I've ever seen such a large private enterprise of rescuers before. Gary mentioned 50, helicopters, and there were fixed wings involved. I know Samaritans.
What's fixed wings? What do you mean?
Fixed on non-helicopters.
Airplanes.
Airplanes.
Okay.
Yes. I know the Samaritan's Purse, they leased a couple of Black Hawk helicopters. There were ex-military people kind of in the background running the operation. This has been absolutely fantastic. And that's why there's been a lot of criticism labeled at the federal government.
Right.
Heard another report this morning that there was an isolated community. They did have communications, and they were wondering when FEMA was going to come to help them. And FEMA, there were telephone conversations. FEMA came up to a road, and there was a sign that said road closed. But the people said, just go around the sign because you can make it up. FEMA people said, according to these individuals, I'm sorry, we cannot go around a sign that says the road is closed. That was the response.
Listen, when you have a bureaucracy the size of ours, you have
the federal government.
The federal government. You have regulations and rules. And listen, we all make fun of what we call Karens and Kens in real life. The people who are always scolding someone and saying, hey, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. The federal government is filled with, the bureaucracy is filled with those kind of people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're all like that. No. I've known people who have worked for the federal government, good Christian people. But I'm saying it is very difficult for a behemoth like that to do anything effectively or efficiently. And in contrast, we have Gary Haven and some of these others who take their gifts and their backgrounds, you mentioned the military, and their money, and they say, hey, here's a problem, how can we fix it? And you know what? This is the Christian influence in this country. Whether you're an atheist and don't believe it or not, in many places of the world where there is no Christian influence, people take care of their own.
Yeah.
And these are people who said, I'm going to put, Gary Haven is talking about trying to find a place to land, power lines down, so on and so forth. This is not a day. This is not a picnic.
No.
He could have gotten seriously hurt or died doing this. But love your neighbor is a Christian ideal. It still infuses much of our country. It gives me hope for our nation's future. Should God have mercy on us.
And can I put an alert out to our listeners? Watch out for the Biden administration, Harris Biden administration. Their favorite word in responding to this criticism is misinformation.
Right.
You're going to hear this over and over again.
You talk about criticism against FEMA.
Any criticism? It's being classed. Kamala Harris, Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of Homeland Security, they're all using that term. In fact, I want to play you a little montage of that, and then you're going to hear a response from New York Post columnist Miranda Devine to this use of the word misinformation. Cut 4.
There's a lot of misinformation. And I beseech you, I beg you to please not pay attention to it.
Sir, what's the risk of political figures sharing misinformation during this time?
It misleads people. It puts people in circumstances where they panic, where they're really, really, really worried.
So I'm going to divorce the disinformation that is being spread from any one individual and just say this. Disinformation harms survivors of a disaster, because they lose trust in their government.
There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you do? Yes, it's misinformation, and it's there.
That you don't like misinformation.
We've seen them threaten social media, and social media therefore has censored people, whether it's about COVID-19 or, rude memes about the First Lady or Hunter Biden's laptop. They've censored American speech.
Who's they? Is that Miranda Devine?
That was Miranda Devine.
She's an excellent columnist for the New York Post. I read her stuff weekly.
But note the tactic here. And, I think they sat in a room and said, here's how we're going to respond to any criticism of FEMA. We're going to call it misinformation, but we're also going to say, if you question what we're doing, you're jeopardizing the lives of people who need to be helped.
Listen, this is right out of their playbook. If you say there are only two genders, then the people on the other side, the pro-trans people, will say, you're putting at risk young people's lives. Do you want them to kill themselves?
Yeah.
No, of course we don't. We think they should get the mental health help they need.
Yes.
Not be encouraged to chop parts of their bodies off. But it's the same idea. Every time you go against the official story, the official narrative, you're accused of endangering people. And what a lot of people are saying in criticism of not just Karine Jean-Pierre, but the Biden administration is, you talk about putting people at risk, doing nothing, FEMA, puts people at risk.
Yes. And let's remember where this particular story originated. Kamala Harris, Alejandro Mayorkas said first, we're running out of money here at FEMA.
Right.
And we talked about this last week. On the official FEMA page, they talked about sending almost $700 million, setting aside FEMA money to help illegal immigrants get settled in this country. And so Alejandro Mayorkas, they come up with this line. And then you have Karine Jean-Pierre saying, no, that's not happening. Saying to Peter Doocy in that exchange at the White House the other day, by you even asking the question,
right,
you're guilty of misinformation. I'm asking a question based on what Alejandro Mayorkas said.
Yeah, and Karine Jean-Pierre, if I'm not mistaken, last year, 2023, mentioned that FEMA was using disaster relief money.
You're right.
To help settle
illegal
immigrants. Well, she didn't say illegal immigrants, but the migrants coming across the border. So Peter Doocy and everyone else has every right to criticize and to at least ask questions. Yeah. It's not misinformation.
Yeah. Karine Jean-Pierre, she's very sensitive these days.
She walked out of that press briefing, didn't she?
She closed her binder up and walked out. Huh?
Left in a huff.
Yeah. As she was leaving the room, she says, "I want to be clear."
Well, I'll tell you who is clear, folks.
Who's clear?
We're clear.
We're clear.
We're clear on American Family Radio, and this is part of the reason why we exist. We exist to get the truth out to you. Now, sometimes we don't know all the facts, but we have American Family News.
That doesn't stop us from being clear, does it?
Well, that is true. Sometimes we will. We will talk without having all the facts. I will at least admit that for myself. Right. But we do have American Family News and the men and women on that team who are hunting the truth. And that's why we believe American Family Radio is a ministry that God has raised up. And so 3 days in the fall, 3 days in the spring, we ask you, our listeners, to help fund this very important ministry. And we have our fall share-a-thon going on. The theme is Revive Us Again. And folks, by the way, up for the next 10 minutes, 9 minutes, we have going on a Founders Day Challenge, $50,000. A group of supporters has generously donated in the lead up to Share-a-thon, and now they're challenging you to come alongside them to support the work of AFR. Here's how you can do it.
How can we do it?
You can call this number. We have folks standing by and sitting by.
That's right.
Who are waiting to take your call, and here's the number, 877-616-2396. That's 877-616-2396. Or you can go online to afr.net to give to this ministry. And the $50,000 Founders Day Challenge is going on for about the next 8.5 minutes.
Thank you, everybody who's already called in. We got William in Denton, Texas. These are people called probably the last hour. Lynn in Wisconsin. What town is that?
Schulzburg,
Wisconsin. We've got William in Jamestown, North Dakota. We really are American Family Radio, aren't we?
Yeah,
all
we've
over
got
the country.
someone from Alan and Jolene from Makokata,
yeah, Iowa. A lot of Indian names across our country that.
Kevin from Coal Valley, I can pronounce that one in Illinois.
Yeah, and Aaron in Louisville, Mississippi, and Gary in Mercer, Oklahoma. Let's hear from one of our fine listeners right now.
I got connected to Martin by Tim's letter that he sent out before your spring share-a-thon. He said we get letters, emails, and phone calls daily about how God is using American Family Radio to change lives, but this is one of the most powerful testimonies we've received. And then Tim said, if you want to drop Martin a letter of encouragement, you may write him at this address, and he gave the whole address and his number. I mean, when I read it, he talked about being locked up in maximum security prison, and he said that his only stimulation was a radio, and he got locked in solitary confinement, and all he had, and this was kind of God's sense of humor, but all he had was AFR and a Spanish station. So he just decided that he would listen to it. It was the only communication he had. He, after listening for 2 months, got down on his knees and asked the Lord to come in his life. And he said from then on, his life just turned completely around. I read that letter and just cried. And then Tim said, hey, if you want to send some encouragement to him, write him a letter. And I thought, I'm going to do that. And so I wrote him. And about a month later, he wrote me back. And I thought, I'm amazed. And from then on, we've been writing back and forth. And he's just told me little bits and pieces about his life and what's happened. And the amazing thing was the letters that came from your readers of encouragement and prayer to him happened right when he was being transferred from maximum security to general population prison. He didn't get those letters until he was moved to this other prison. And then they started, forwarding his mail. And he got it, and he said, I took an average of the dates, and he said the dates that I was getting these letters of prayers, encouragement, Bibles, he said all kinds of things. I realized that it was the same time that God came in this maximum security prison and brought me, they shackled him up, took him to a general population prison, gave him a job. And one day he said, that's never happened before. And he said, it was those prayers of these AFR listeners that I read in these letters that got me moved. He said it was just all because of prayers and AFR. And let me just tell you one other thing. I sent him Tim's letter, and he had never seen it. So I sent a copy of Tim's letter and the back of his letter that was on it. And he said, I feel like a rock star. He said, I got all this mail, and then Tim's writing and sending it to all these thousands of people. He said, I just want people to know what AFR has done for me and what they must be doing for thousands of other people that are in prison that are listening to American Family Radio. I'm just amazed with the Lord. I don't know why I'm still amazed. I mean, that's what the Lord does. You'd think I'd have a little more faith in him. I can't wait to call and just tell him that you're still a rock star in Jesus' eyes.
Amen.
Wow.
Well, I remember that letter. We get about we get a 1 or 2 letters a week from people who are incarcerated, either in a county jail or a federal or state penitentiary, and who listen to American Family Radio have found us. Sometimes that's all they have because they don't have a TV or whatever, and they listen to American Family Radio. And so we are doing ministry inside prisons with AFR. But I remember what she's talking about, that caller.
Well,
Nancy there.
Regardless of who wins in the November election, and that's less than a month away, folks, our country needs a lot of help. And that help comes from God. Our country needs a heart transplant. And I'm not just saying this because it's Share-a-thon, but American Family Radio, I believe, has been raised up by God for just such a time as this. It's done a lot of wonderful work. God has given us the ability to do a lot of wonderful work since 1991 when the network started. But Tim and Fred, our country needs the gospel. It needs the truth of God's word, maybe more than ever before, at least in our lifetimes. Our country is mentally and emotionally and spiritually very sick.
Yes.
And it needs the truth. And American Family Radio is being used by God to reach people. So when we say it's Share-a-thon, we have to have the help of our listeners.
Yes.
And so, folks, I'm going to give you the number here.
Call and make a donation.
And be as generous as you can. The number to call is 877-616-2396. 877-616-2396. You can go online at afr.net if you want to give. Now, folks, we do have what we call premiums. These are small tokens of appreciation. There's no way we can give you a gift that is equal in value to what you send to us. But we do like to express our thanks to you. So for a one-time gift of $150 or more, you will receive a small Revive Us Again travel bag. If you become a Great Commission partner, and by that we mean someone who gives monthly right out of your bank account or your debit card or your credit card, with a monthly gift of $30 or more, you will receive not only the Revive Us Again travel bag, but Tim's excellent book, his brand new book.
Oh, stop.
Because these things matter. It is a compilation of columns that he has written over the years for our monthly magazine. That's if you become a Great Commission partner. The number is 877-616-2396. We ask you to please give and be as generous as you can. Our country, I'll just say this, I think our country needs the ministry of American Family Radio. We're not alone in ministries helping our country, but we believe God has raised this ministry up for just such a time as this.
We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio. Remember, for a one-time gift of $150 or more, we'll send you a travel bag and printed with our Share-a-thon theme, Revive Us Again. And for a monthly pledge of $30 or more, we'll send you that travel bag, plus Tim Wildman's new book, Because These Things Matter. Call now at 877-616-2396. And thank you for partnering with American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and other state officials have provided an update on Hurricane Milton before it makes landfall. Governor DeSantis told reporters that Milton is currently listed as a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds around 155 miles per hour. He said the state has been creating shelters for residents.
We have 149 general population shelters that are open throughout the state. The current total shelter population is just 31,000 individuals. We have room in those shelters for a total population of almost 200,000 individuals.
Milton is expected to make landfall sometime late tonight or early tomorrow morning near Tampa. Storm surge is expected to be as high as 15 feet in some areas. A North Carolina National Guard helicopter crew has been grounded following a Hurricane Helene aid incident. Here's Fox's Tanya J. Powers.
The North Carolina National Guard has grounded the crew of a Black Hawk helicopter after they flew low over a Hurricane Helene donation area, blowing over 3 tents and scattering supplies in the air. Video of the incident in Burnsville, north of Asheville, has been widely circulated and shows the chopper hovering over the supply area before taking off again. The National Guard says it's under investigation and has released a statement on social media saying that the crew was making a delivery of generators, and once they identified the situation, they, quote, aborted the landing for safety reasons and departed the area. Guard officials say they're working to assess the level of damage caused by the rotor wash.
Former President Donald Trump is in Biden country trying to get out the vote. Fox's Jeff Manasso.
The former president travels to President Biden's childhood town of Scranton in his second stop to Pennsylvania this month, including his return last weekend to Butler, where Trump survived an assassination attempt this summer.
A very big thank you to Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania. And as I was saying,
the former president locked in a tight race in the battleground state where a recent Fox News poll shows he holds a 6-point advantage on economic issues, and where the Wall Street Journal suggests that Democrats are concerned about Kamala Harris's appeal with working class and union voters.
Kamala Harris was finally challenged with some tough questions in an interview with 60 Minutes. Steve Jordahl takes a look back.
With the Democrat presidential nominee slipping in the polls, the campaign has been forced to come out of the basement and take some questions from the press. Normally, that's not a heavy lift, given the tremendous liberal bias of the mainstream media, so her sit-down with Bill Whitaker of CBS's 60 Minutes probably took her by surprise.
Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us pay their fair share in taxes.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
Whitaker hit her on the economy, gun control, and her evolving stances on a variety of issues, including immigration.
But what I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
Jeff Dickens of Media Research Center says Whitaker was surprisingly strong.
CBS's Bill Whitaker actually performed an act of journalism and actually held her feet to the fire and asked her some good questions, some tough questions.
He says Harris, on the other hand, floundered.
She always gave that sense of the 8th grader that was assigned an oral book report but didn't read the book.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
In final news this hour, the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline is $3.20, down from $3.27 on this day last month, $3.70 on this day last year. And that's all our time for now. Find more news on afn.net. That's afn.net. It's not just what you hear on the radio. Visit afn.net for Associated Press articles, videos, columns, even a political cartoon. It's all there on afn.net. And be sure to subscribe to our free daily email news briefs. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on X.
Hi, this is Jim from Hickory, Mississippi. I'd just like to thank AFR for all they do. It's like a cup of coffee in the morning, it picks me up and keeps me humming right along the rest of the day. Make every day a good day with the good news of our great Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. They say garbage in and get garbage out, but on the flip side, if you get good stuff in, then you're going to have good stuff coming out. And I'd just like to thank AFR for giving me good stuff every day, help me on my walk with the Lord. And just wanted to say, keep up the good work. God bless.
In honor of Brother Don Wildman and his wife Linda, it's Founders Day on American Family Radio. It's been more than 40 years since Reverend Don Wildman felt a calling from the Lord and began pouring all his energy and resources into starting a new ministry. Since then, countless lives have been touched by God through AFA and AFR.
The only promise I've ever made to people who give us money, that is, we'll be the best stewards of their money, their gifts, as we can be.
To help us honor Brother Don's hard work and faithfulness to the Lord, you can call 877-616-2396 and make a pledge of support to AFR. That's 877-616-2396. Or give online at afr.net. It's day 2 of Share-a-thon, and it's Founders Day on American Family Radio.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of Share-a-thon on American Family Radio. It's 11:06 here at Central Time in the good old US of A, and thank you for listening wherever you may be joining us. What's that, Ed?
You just really hate saying 11:06, don't you?
Well, it's a letter. It's not a number. O is a letter.
I know.
I don't want to use correct English.
Yes.
Huh?
I know.
Yeah.
Listen, it's just
HIJKLMN0P.
Yeah. All right, Steve Paisley Jordahl. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
Ed Battagliano, Tim Wildman, Jenna Ellis joins us in studio. Good morning, Jenna.
It's so great to be here. Oh, there I am.
Yeah.
I'm on. Yeah, we had. Oh no, it still is 11:06. I thought we had to wait till 11:07 for me to come on. But it's so great to be here in Tupelo, and always great to join all of you. And as my dad says, he loves this show, by the way, because he always loves hearing from the guys, and it's fun to join the banter. So.
Absolutely. Well, good to have you. I know that.
I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but you fit right in.
Oh, thank you. That actually is, and my dad would take that as a compliment for me. So.
One of the guys. Okay.
One of the banter. I'm the banteress.
The banteress. Okay.
Yes.
Well, and you yesterday after the show was over, because you stayed on for about an hour or maybe more with us, but you said, "Hey, listen, I'm available if you guys want me on the rest of the week."
Right.
And so I told when we had our story meeting this morning, I said Jenna said she would be on, and Tim said, "All right, get her back on." So if you were not being sincere yesterday, that was your fault.
Well,
because you did a great job.
Thank you.
Your show's great. People really love it. You are not just a communicator. You have the ability to add a Christian context to it, and you're fun to have on.
Well,
that's a good combination.
That is great. And tomorrow I will wear a sweatshirt that says Navy, because you know what the Navy stands for, right? Never again volunteer yourself.
Right.
Navy.
Yes.
In the Navy. All right, you're listening to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio, day 2. And we thank everybody who's already made a gift yesterday or maybe prior to Share-a-thon or earlier this morning. You phoned in a donation to American Family Radio. We just say thank you very much for that. And we want to praise the Lord for his goodness to us and his provision. We know that God's people have always respond during Share-a-thon. Those who listen, you obviously believe in the same things we believe in, and you believe in the mission of American Family Radio. And so we thank you for seeing the vision and making it. You know, it's not easy to write a check to somebody, through an organization.
And times are tough. We understand that.
Yeah. So it's not, sometimes people are, well, so I don't know those folks, or they're far away, or whatever like that. So we considered an honor that you would trust us with your checkbook to make a gift to American Family Radio. You're listening to AFR. Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us now. So, Steve, we talked about this, Fred, but the eyes of the country are watching what's happening on the coast of Florida right now.
Yeah,
right?
they are. And it looks like tonight at about 7 p.m. Eastern time, that would be 6 o'clock in Central Time, it's supposed to make landfall. It looks right now, as a Category 3, they're predicting just south of Sarasota. So,
Sarasota is about 20 miles south of Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Right.
So 20 miles with a hurricane this size isn't. I mean, Tampa.
That's true.
Tampa's going to get a lot of damage. So.
And I have learned since becoming a Floridian, and I didn't know a whole lot about hurricanes, but where the eye is. If you are just kind of to basically the
right
3
side.
o'clock or the right side position of the eye, that's the worst part that gets hit. And so if it moves, it all depends on where the eye is, but if the eye is even 20 miles down from Tampa, that'll at least help with the wind and some of that, because they're going to get
for Tampa Bay.
So for
they
Tampa
rotate
Bay, at least.
Yeah,
so.
but there's so many people that live along that coast, all the way from know, Clearwater, Tampa Bay, all the way down to
Well, that's where
Fort Myers.
that's where the warm and clear water is.
Yeah.
On that side of Florida, you get the more the Atlantic.
Yeah.
On the east side, but
well, the storm surge, they're saying that's what's gonna. I mean, the wind, obviously, the flooding, but the storm surge for people who live along the coastline is potentially going to be historic.
Yeah.
Historically bad.
10 feet, I think, and with Florida being so flat, there's nothing to bump up against to kind of push back. So
yeah, I'm watching live cam from Sarasota, from Siesta Key, which is the beach near Sarasota. It's a very famous place for people to vacation and visit. And as you can imagine, their weather's going down pretty fast, and you just wonder how long this live cam will be available. You know.
Because it's starting to get a little rough looking now, and we're 6 hours away.
Yeah, and these poor birds, birds out there. I thought birds were supposed to be smart.
Well, they do have bird brains.
Duly noted.
So
early brownie. Where's Nikki Haley when you need her?
maybe she's on the beach in Florida. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not calling Nikki Haley bird brain.
No,
Trump did.
And no, who would call another human being a bird?
A name?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of anybody.
It's
All right.
interesting. BBC is showing these aircraft that fly into the middle of the hurricane.
Yeah,
Storm chasers.
Storm chasers.
Well,
no, they're
hurricane hunters.
Hurricane headhunters.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
They flew into the. I saw this video. They flew into the eye. Sometimes the eye wall is extremely defined and it's clear skies above and everything. This wasn't quite as dramatic, but you could all of a sudden it cleared up. You could see down to the ground, and man, I don't know. That would be such a to be in an airplane.
You know, J.J. Jasper, our very own J.J. Jasper, one time got an invitation to go.
To somebody else's J.J. Jasper.
Well, yes, wise guy. You've been hanging around Tim. Well, he got an invitation because he was talking about these hurricane hunters, and somebody he knows was listening and invited him. And J.J. Jasper will do anything. Yeah. The guy has zero fear. And he went on one of these when they had a hurricane. In fact, it's a pretty – I don't know the story. I can't remember the story. It was pretty funny because he had to be ready to head for the Mississippi coast almost on a moment's notice because you don't know when these hurricanes will pop up.
Right.
And so they called him. And anyway, it's quite an experience. We should maybe get him to share it sometime.
I think that fear is actually a healthy thing,
Oh, yes.
a certain level of that. And
I'm
when
with
you
you.
have, a good risk management analysis and this is actually what my dad does for a living is quality control and risk management for space rockets and satellites and things.
Oh.
And he's literally a rocket scientist,
Yes.
which is, and he has the T-shirt. Actually, this is actually I am a rocket scientist, which is great. But he always taught me not only in business and some of these other principles, and even in law. When I was practicing law, it is all about risk mitigation and saying, okay, here's the worst case scenario, here's the best case, and then here's kind of the likelihood. And you want to be in what you're comfortable with a good cushion of margin.
Yeah. And
I've always taken that in life and thought about that. And for some of these just really extreme experiences like that, where you're for the rush and the thrill, to me, it's like, I'm fine watching National Geographic
Yes.
and the pictures, but I'm not going to do that myself.
Right.
So
When you talk about the ability to have some solid risk management, JJ, not so much. He just has none of
we'll
that.
pray for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a bit fearless, but because of that, he does these amazing things, and so far has lived to tell about it. So
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to tightrope the Niagara Falls between Canada and the U.S.
if somebody offered
Well, that's
that,
coming up. He's going to
Now,
live stream it.
he's been married for many years, and his wife has had to pull
Good life
back on the
insurance.
reins.
She's make sure his life insurance is paid.
That is why married men live longer, because otherwise men do stupid things.
Yes.
And as the sole female in the
Bada
room,
boom.
I
Bada
can
boom.
I can say that is one of the reasons biblically that it says it's not good for man to be alone.
Yes.
All right, you're listening to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio. Ed, tell folks our theme verse and then how folks can give to our Share-a-thon if they want to help
Absolutely.
us here at AFR.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
This is our fall share-a-thon, and we're in the middle day. Okay, so yesterday started us off. Today and tomorrow is all that's left of our fall share-a-thon. Our theme is Revive Us Again. That theme has as its theme verse, Psalm 85, verses 6 and 7. And this is what it says. Will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you? Show us your unfailing love, Lord, and grant us your salvation. Folks, America needs God's help. And we say frequently on this show and others, only God can save America. And so this verse is kind of the heartbeat of the staff here as we were picking a verse and a theme. Our nation is in desperate need of revival. So that is the theme of our fall share-a-thon. And the number to call, if you can give to us, we ask you to be as generous as possible. Here's the number to call. We have folks sitting by and standing by right now to hear from you. The number to call to reach those folks is 877-616-2396. 877-616-2396. You can go online and give safely and securely at afr.net. That is also available for you. I do want to make mention of our Fall Share-a-thon 2024 Premium. One-time gift of $150 or more. You will receive a small Revive Us Again travel bag. It has Revive Us Again and the verse on the side. And it's the size of, for toiletries when you travel. That it's a smaller bag. But if you become a Great Commission partner with a monthly gift of $30 or more, you will receive a copy not only of the Revive Us Again travel bag, but Tim Wildman's brand new book. It's excellent. It's titled Because These Things Matter, a compilation of cultural commentaries. This is a selection of commentaries that Tim has written over the years, and Tim's been writing for many years for our monthly magazine. And so this has been compiled into a brand new book by Tim Wildman, Because These Things Matter. So that's if you become a Great Commission partner, and by that we mean that you give on a regular basis by credit card or e-check, or you can set up a donation of any amount, can be $30 or more. And so that is a big help to us, and it is easier for people to give that way. You don't have to try to remember or write a check. It just is an automatic draft. So 877-616-2396 is the number to call for our fall share-a-thon.
So, we have this screen here that tells us who is donated from where.
Yes.
And I'm looking at Roy from Tumsuba, Mississippi, and I'm looking from Gene from
where?
It says Tumsuba,
Mississippi.
You ever heard of that?
And Gene from Tuscumbia, Alabama. And here's my challenge to you. If you live in a place with a weird name, if you want to amuse me for the next hour, donate. And if it's a hard pronounced name, I'm going to have Ed pronounce it. Try to pronounce it.
You know what was my favorite
Yeah.
from yesterday? There's one I was trying to think of it, and I thought, was it called like Frog Lick or something? And they go, no, it was Toad Suck.
Oh, yes.
Toad
I think
Suck.
that's Arkansas.
And I thought, what kind of person founded that town and said, what would really draw people here?
Yes.
We can have a festival each year.
What are the high school teams? The
Toad Suckers?
Toad Suckers.
Toad Suckers. I have a T-shirt. We had a listener. This got several years ago for Trivia Friday. And they called and got in, and we were talking about their town, Toad Suck. And I got a T-shirt in the mail.
Wow. Well, they need to rename it Frog Lick, because that was what I was thinking of.
Well, so that's my challenge, folks. If you live in a town with a very interesting or strange name, I challenge you to give to American Family Association. You'll be helping the ministry and amusing me at the same time.
And this is the Steve Jordahl Challenge. There you go.
Steve Jordahl. No money involved necessarily, but
it's got to be something weirder than Paisley, and that is a challenge.
True. That's true.
There you go.
All right, Share-a-thon rolls on here on American Family Radio. We're coming up on 11:20 Central Time here on American Family Radio. Tim, Ed, Steve, and Jenna, and we thank you for listening to American Family Radio. Let's hear from one of our fine listeners out there.
I am very thankful for Don Wildman and American Family Radio. It's probably been like 13 or 14 years ago when I came into the blessing of finding your radio station in a very strange way. I was driving an old Mercury, and it had gone, the battery had gone bad and everything, and I had never had it on 88.3 before. I'm in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and we're off of the Branson, Kansas tower, or Bronson, I should say. And when my radio came back on, it was on your station, and I've been listening to it ever since. Brother Don has a legacy that anybody would be proud of. I'm so sorry for his family, but I know how proud they must be for the work that he started and accomplished.
You know, Tim, we hear those kinds of stories all the time, kind of odd God moments. So her battery went out, and so she had to get a new battery, and maybe the radio reset, and AFR was playing, and that's when she started listening. We get those kinds of testimonies. Someone will take their car into a mechanic, and they will leave it on AFR, and so the mechanic is working on it. He has the car cranked, and he's working on something and starts to hear American Family Radio and then begins to listen on a regular basis. So God does move in mysterious ways.
Right. Even when people are cranking their car, right?
It's crank. You know, I was thinking about when I was about to say the car was cranked. I was thinking Tim's going to say something about this.
I grew up saying that myself.
But I don't know what else to say.
No, I know. I grew up saying that.
I don't know what else to call it.
Because that goes back to the 20s.
Well, they
30s,
literally cranked the car.
They used to crank the car up.
Yeah.
Start the car up, probably.
Yeah.
So
I guess start would be a good way.
Yeah, but it just doesn't sound as fun.
No.
Just cranking it.
Crank it.
Crank that car. All right, you're listening to the American Family Radio Network, and we want to thank everybody who's called in and made a pledge already. We're getting closing in on 7,500 pledges, and we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And we want to challenge you, if you haven't called and made a gift to American Family Radio, today is your day. Now is your hour. You're hearing me say this, and so please, if you haven't already, go ahead and call in and be as generous as you possibly can. I'm going to give you the phone number. What you're doing here, you're calling in, and you're saying, I believe in American Family Radio and what you guys are doing. And we're a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, so you can write this off of your taxes.
We don't get government money. We don't get money from big corporate foundations.
Nope.
George
We
Soros.
certainly don't get George Soros money. And,
No,
we
I've
wouldn't
asked
take
him.
it. You've asked him.
I've asked him, George Soros. He
Really?
Just, yeah, he
You
hangs
see him
up,
down at 31
hangs
Flavors
up,
or something?
Hangs up on me. Huh? So, I mean, he won't give us any money.
And
So-
we wouldn't take it. We
From
wouldn't
who?
take the money from the government
No.
and have strings attached.
No.
So we rely on the people who listen.
Yeah, exactly. So the backbone of our ministry is the small donor, monthly donor, who gives us. We get a handful of
Large
folks who give us thousands and thousands. Most people give us $50 a month or something of that nature. So, and quite frankly, that's the way you want it.
Yeah.
Because we've all known churches where you have one or two big wealthy people, and if they get mad and leave,
Yeah, you're in trouble.
church
Yeah,
is
if you're
trouble.
relying on that as your
So we don't.
main
You don't want to ever
source.
rely. You don't want to ever rely on that kind of situation.
However,
However,
if there is someone listening,
Yeah.
and they want to give us $150,000 in one fell
we're not
swoop,
going to say no.
we won't say no.
No, it hurt their feelings.
No, exactly.
It would hurt their feelings. Say,
That's
I want to
right.
give you $150,000.
We're not
no,
supposed to give offense.
You can give us $50 a month. No, we're
Yeah.
not going to do that to somebody.
Right.
For 1,500 months.
So, if you want to make a gift to American Family Radio and be as generous as you possibly can to help us, our ministry here, you can go to afr.net. You can read all about us there, too, at afr.net, afr.net. Or you can call this number and make this pledge. Make your pledge. And we appreciate it if you would consider us in your monthly bank draft, credit card, however you do that, debit card, however you do that, where you don't even have to think about it. You just said, hey, I'm going to give those guys $30, $40, $50 a month to help them out. That way we can budget, and that's always helpful.
Yes.
To us. But here's the phone number to call. It's 877-616-2396. Again, 877-616-2396. 2396 is the phone number to call. And that calls here at our offices and studios, and the folks are answering the phones
It's not Bangladesh.
Right down. No, it's not Bangladesh.
You may not understand
Right.
the Mississippi accent,
That's
but
good point.
But it won't be, it won't be foreign. It'll just be Southern.
It's not going to sound like you've just called into your local 7-Eleven. Okay, but it's going to be probably a Southern. Some folks would be a Southern accent. We have some who have strong Southern accents, but most of our folks, you'll be able to understand perfectly well.
It's a good thing you're uncancelable. However you say that.
Well, is that offensive to say that?
As the only native Southerner among the four of us here, I'm just getting the vibe here that you guys
Can
are
you
being.
say that again? I couldn't understand you.
I'm saying you're getting the vibe here. That sounds very condescending. People who talk like I'm talking right now. So anyway. Listen, folks, despite what these three have said, and they try to dance around it, we don't care what you talk like. As long as you write a check, we don't care.
That's right. We're just cutting to the chase.
We don't care where you live or what you talk like. So anyway, 877-616-2396. Do we have a bumper, or we have music, or do you have the theme music? You got anything going on right now, Brent, or just the listener testimonies?
We got listener testimonies. I can play music for you. We go to break at 11:29.
I just thought that. Don't we have a song associated with? Yeah, we can go to the break. Yeah, don't we have that?
Well, like other people singing it? Don't we have like someone else singing it?
Yeah.
We could do the barbershop quartet here.
No, you don't want me singing. Steve actually has an excellent voice.
All right, let's take our break early. Let's do that, and we'll come back momentarily.
What, do you need a coffee refill?
Yeah, I need a coffee. Coffee.
Coffee.
In honor of Brother Don and Linda Wildman, it's Founders Day on AFR.
Hi, this is Walker Wildman, and a couple different stories that I remember vividly about my grandfather. One thing, it's kind of a small thing, but I found it always stuck with me, and I find it kind of humorous as I grew up, and that is that around the office, around American Family Association and American Family Radio, when I would come up here as a child, and sometimes I would work during the summer and do different things in the mailroom and other places, I would always go to my grandfather's office to get a quarter for a Coke. And it never failed that Papa always had a quarter in his pocket for a Coke at the soda machine. And speaking of the soda machine, Papa was very, very serious about the fact that sodas could not be more than a quarter. He had to make sure that sodas remained at a quarter throughout the offices here at AFA and American Family Radio. So we still today have quarter sodas, and you go other places and you have to pay $1 or $2 for a can out of the soda machine. But here at AFA, we still have our sodas for a quarter, and that's because my grandfather was very serious about the Cokes not being more than a quarter. The last thing I remember vividly about my grandfather is I hear stories throughout AFA from time to time about how he always was looking for a fight. He was always looking for a fight, and not in a bad way, but in a way that he always wanted to make sure that he was fighting for what he believed in. And so he was on the lookout for various television channels, for various cable networks, that would step out of line, if you will, when it comes to the culture war and the kind of values that they were putting forth, or the lack thereof. So Papa always was on guard, on his toes, if you will, and he was always looking for the next person or company to go after for threatening family values in our country. And so some even called my grandfather Sue Happy, because he didn't mind suing corporations or individuals who were coming after American Family Association or were threatening Judeo-Christian family values. Another thing I noticed, another characteristic about my grandfather that I love and that I learned from, and I think many staff members at American Family Association and American Family Radio will tell you this, is that Papa was always frugal with ministry funds, meaning that he always thought twice before he spent ministry funds, and I would say that principle carries on today. He was always looking for ways to get the job done, but do so in a manner and in a way that saved money. And the view that, and the belief and the reminder that all the funds and the monies that are used here at American Family Association and American Family Radio, ultimately they're God's money. It's God's money, God's funds, God's resources, but it's also the money of our donors. And that needs to be remembered, and we need to be continually reminded that every time we're investing in something, or we're spending any kind of funds for whatever cause around the ministry here, we need to always remember, where do the funds come from? They come from God, and they come from our donors across the country.
Brother Don has been standing in the gap for families, and Linda has been standing behind him since the inception of this ministry more than 40 years ago. We praise the Lord for our founder's obedient service during Share-a-thon on AFR. Thank you for listening to American Family Radio on Founders Day. We're honoring Brother Don Wildman as he honored the Lord.
I would just like to see every person in America have access to American Family Radio.
Call now at 877-616-2396 and make your pledge. That's 877-616-2396. Or give online at afr.net. It's Founders Day on American Family Radio.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed, Steve, Jenna, and now Debbie joins us. So we got the whole, we got a band.
What do we call ourselves? What's the name of our band?
I don't.
Build back. What was
Back
it?
Better?
Build
Build
back
Back
bitter.
Bitter.
Bitter from yesterday.
Build Back Bitter.
Build Back Bitters.
We
Take
can-
the stage. Huh?
Yeah.
Debbie is from Debbie Withnow is from San Antonio or Austin?
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, Austin area, and is in town with us, and we are going to talk to her about what we're doing with the iVoter Guide.
Okay.
Because you helped direct that iVoter Guide. It is. Let me give you the background. Richard Ford was the gentleman's name who started it.
Yes.
With you guys.
I wasn't there yet.
Okay, you came along later, but Richard was a strong Christian activist in the Dallas area. He passed away 3 years ago or so, but before he did, he wanted to make sure that the iVoter Guide, which is a huge asset to the Christian community in America in terms of people can go and research candidates. And I'm talking about not just presidential, but we're talking Senate, House, state legislature, judges. I mean,
School boards.
Yes. So we worked it out where we purchased the iVoter Guide, we being American Family Association, American Family Radio. We purchased it from Richard, and just to keep it going, keep it alive. And you were already on staff there, Debbie. I want to ask you, number one, how many people do you anticipate, I know you can keep up with this, using the iVoter Guide this year?
Well, I know 2 years ago we educated about 7 million voters.
Wow.
We're hoping to eclipse that this year. So we're not quite to those numbers yet. We need to spread the word because a lot of people wait till the last minute to get their information to vote. So we expect some peak traffic in the next.
Where would somebody go to check all this out?
Well, the main place is ivoterguide.com, ivoterguide.com. You can link to it from AFR. There's links to find your voter guide, and the whole goal is to give you a personalized ballot. So enter your address, and you will just see the races and the candidates that are on your ballot.
Okay. So you don't, if you live in Mississippi, you're not getting the state of California's information.
Exactly.
And vice versa. All you got to do is enter your.
Well, and the benefit for you is
Yeah.
you don't have to know I'm in Congressional District 2 and I'm in State Senate District 10.
We can tell you that just by
Based on
entering
your address.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Does it include also
yeah.
for Colorado is my former home state, and we have judicial retention, for example, and that's one of the questions that I constantly get because people pay so much attention to the executive and legislative, but not judicial candidates. So does it include those also?
It includes those that run at the statewide level. So the state Supreme Court judges, whether they're running as a political party, which happens in some states, or if they run in retention, we have a team of people, actually law students and lawyers, that look at those judges and how they've ruled on things and are reading those rulings. We work with Philip Jareggi with the Center for Judicial Renewal.
Great.
And we rate those candidates. So those judicial candidates, because I'm with you. It is, who knows what to vote on judges. Our goal next year is to continue to expand that and to be able to cover maybe even district judges, Court of Appeals. There's just, it's really a lack of information about judges.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't get those information for the states that don't have them run as a party because they should appear unbiased. Then it's really difficult for some people who just say, well, I don't know, but I just want to vote one party all the way down ticket and make it easy. They can't do that with judges. So, so it makes a lot of sense to be informed that way.
Well, and a lot of us have heard the phrase judicial activism, and that's what's going on. So that's what we're rating is, are the judges following the Constitution? Are they following the original intent? Or are they legislating from the bench? So
to get connected with iVoter Guide, if you go to afa.net, there's a drop-down menu that says activism, and you hit that. The drop-down menu will appear. Click on it, and then voter guide is down there.
I said click on.
Huh?
You said click on.
Click on.
Like a Klingon.
See, now you're making fun of my Boston accent.
Well.
A Boston accent.
You're
So
Boston.
so click on. So just click on that that drop-down menu there.
Right.
And
Get
know,
yourself
it's
some
or
a
just
little.
avoid that and go to ivoterguide.com.
Yes, you
Go straight to ivoterguide.com.
You can avoid all of this.
No clicking on.
Yeah,
It's it's a little known fact there, Tim, that iVoter Guide is.
How do you spell chowder?
Chowder.
Chowder.
Chowder. With an A.
Clam chowder or some lobster.
CHOWA. Huh? All right, you're listening to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio. What are we doing here, Ed, with our Share-a-thon?
Well, it is our fall Share-a-thon. We have 3 days in the spring and 3 days in the fall. That's it for American Family Radio. Now, you can give all year round, of course. We don't refuse those kinds of gifts. But our Share-a-thon here in the fall is themed. The theme of it is Revive Us Again. And the verse that kind of drives that theme is Psalm 85, verse 6 and 7, which says, "Will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you? Show us your unfailing love, Lord, and grant us your salvation." And as we've said on the show, and as we're saying during these 3 days of Share-a-thon, if there's anything America needs, it is the intervention of Almighty God as he extends his hand of grace to lead our nation in repentance. And so Share-a-thon for Revive Us Again is underway today and tomorrow, or the days that remain. We encourage you and ask you to give to support American Family Radio. And the way you can do that is to call this number. And we have folks standing by right now to take your call, take your information and your pledge. The number is 8.
Take it.
Huh?
We'll take it.
We'll did I say it wrong again?
No, you said it right.
Okay.
It just sounds forceful. We're going to take it. We'll receive.
We will gather. We will
accept
gather your information.
We'll gather your information
and not sell it to anybody else.
Right.
And here's the number: 877-616-2396. 877-616-2396. And
stereo.
You can go to the website, which is AFR.net.
What is that website again, Ed?
AFR.net.
So whether you live in
AFR.
New England or
That's right.
the South or the West, you can get that accent straight there. All right. So what's the next story, Steve?
Well, our Democrat vice presidential nominee has been campaigning, and he was in California, stopped by Gavin Newsom's home to do some campaigning with donors. It wasn't recorded, but it is reported that he said he wanted to do away with the Electoral College.
Talking about Tim Walz.
Tim Walz.
The knucklehead.
Says-
Tim the knucklehead Walz.
Self-described.
Yes.
Says he want now. So I know Ed and Tim, you and Debbie, you guys could probably all explain exactly why the Electoral College is important, but we have a constitutional attorney here, and I wanted to ask
Good.
Jenna,
I like it.
what in the world is the Electoral College? Why is it important?
Hey, you better give her a time limit.
I was going to say, so do we have an hour that I could?
minute.
But this is why that my new podcast that is
Right.
called On Demand with Jenna Ellis, we can go
When does
long.
that start?
And that starts this Friday. And so
Okay.
you can go to AFR.net and you can click on that icon. And we're going to do some deep dives into exactly these types of topics because so many people, speaking of the judicial branch, they want to say, well, pack the court. And then other people say, well, no, we have 9 justices and that's fixed. And people have all of these different ideas, but they don't understand not only what is in the Constitution, but also the rationale for it. And so what a lot of people don't understand about the Electoral College, so we don't have a democracy in America. We have elements of democracy embedded into our constitutional republic, as our good friend Abraham Hamilton III always likes to say. And for the Electoral College, until 1824, in every state, it was the state legislatures that would actually determine and appoint their electors to the Electoral College that would then cast their vote for the president, because we had aspects of federalism and state sovereignty where the state actually had a bigger voice in the federal government than what we have now. And our U.S. senators used to be appointed by the state legislatures. All of that changed, and we've gone more and more and more to the popular vote, just direct democracy. And so what the Democrats are suggesting and why they think the Electoral College needs to go away, which is actually our process for electing our chief magistrate or our president, is because they want the popular vote. They want California, New York, and these hubs of millions and millions of people to determine the outcome for the entire country, instead of having 50 laboratories of democracy to say, well, it doesn't matter if you're California or you're Rhode Island, you're Florida, you're Mississippi. You should have a say and in our process and not just be completely watered down by these bigger states. And so they created this process of the Electoral College to ensure that every state had a say. And so if you actually read Federalist 68 by Alexander Hamilton, it talks about the rationale for the creation of the Electoral College. And I really think that we need to go back to the original intent and not allow for the popular election of presidents. Because imagine if we had the 24 states, or 25 I think it is now, that are Republican controlled in our state legislatures. If they got to appoint their delegates, we would have a very different outcome for this election. It would not be nearly as close. So the only reason is that the Democrats want to manipulate the process, change the rules so that they can dominate every single election.
Well, and the progressive, quote unquote, progressive mindset, I do like what Abe and others call them regressives. Their mindset is we want to aggregate power in Washington, D.C. We want almost every important decision to be federalized. We want education to rules and regulations to come from D.C., everything. And to your point, and you can feel free to elaborate on this a little bit more, the founders set up whatever number of states we have. Of course, we have 50 or 53, according to Barack Obama. We have 50 states that are supposed to be sovereign.
Yes.
And that was the idea, is there is some shared power that they grant to the federal government, but everything else belongs to the states. And what the regressives want to do is wipe that away. They basically want 50 provinces under the control of the federal government. And that's where this would eventually lead. if they got their way.
Let me see if I get this right. So each state is allotted a number of people, electors, that go to Washington to vote for who will be the president
based on their population.
On their population. So that's why California and New York and Texas, they have more electors than does Iowa, but because they have to you have to count up all those votes. That's why Iowa is a swing state, and that's why candidates have to go to Iowa to campaign, and the people in Iowa get to have their priorities considered in the government, as opposed to direct democracy. You could fly from New York to L.A. to Chicago to New York to L.A. to Chicago, and those three cities, and the priorities inside New York, L.A., and Chicago are not the priorities inside Nebraska and Kansas and Mississippi.
Right.
So we wouldn't have a voice at all.
Right.
Without the
And
Electoral College.
this is where, I mean, even when we were originally founded, obviously we didn't have 50 states. And, we had the original 13 colonies, and then under the creation of the U.S. Constitution in its original form, then when we had the states, we also had Article 4, which is the process by which we can have new states come into the Union. But the whole idea of a representative government was to say we balance between state sovereignty and the states the state leadership that is much more localized and accountable to the people, and the federal government should be accountable to the states. And so we have this split between, okay, there are representatives that go to the U.S. Congress that's based on population, that's based on the census, which that the Democrats want to control that as well, by saying you can't even ask if you're an American citizen. We want to count you regardless. But then the U.S. Senate used to also be appointed by the states until the 17th Amendment. And that then became the popular vote. And we've seen how now that's watered down, and there's almost no distinction in the American voter's mind between the House of Representatives and the Senate. But the whole reason that the Senate actually had more power, like advice and consent of presidential nominees, is because they represented the state's interests. And so Iowa, Mississippi, even though they're less populated, they could have just as much of a say to U.S. senators as the big states. And it was a balance of power. And so much that has shifted in the early 1920s was and beyond has been this massive escalation of a power grab and centralized in Washington. And one of the best things that the late, great Justice Scalia often said is that the best thing about our U.S. Constitution is not our Bill of Rights. It's that we separate and limit powers.
Yes.
And what most people, when we think of separation of powers, think legislative, executive, judicial, but we need to think about it on a vertical level as well. Federal government, state government, also the powers reserved to we the people, like parental rights, education, right of medical decision making. I mean, all these things that are powers are documents, are legal documents, are law reserves to we the people.
Told you.
Yeah.
That's why voting's important.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And knowing
I'm only
the Constitution.
kidding. That was an excellent brief lesson on the history of the
Very
Electoral
concise.
College. Yes.
Thank you. And for lawyers, we call them briefs, but they're actually lengthy.
The lengthy. All right, you're listening to Share-a-thon on American Family Radio, and Debbie, again, what's available at ivoterguide.com?
Information on about 13,000 candidates, including federal candidates, statewide candidates, state legislative candidates, select school board candidates, ballot measures, and judges. So get your personalized ballot at ivoterguide.com.
How much does it cost to visit this website?
Well, the website is free because we're a part of American Family Association. So
It's a
you
service
can support
we provide.
iVoterGuide by supporting AFA through the show.
Very important. And
what's very important?
A very important service. I mean, we believe in
That's
in
why we make it
citizens
free.
voting. Okay, we just had some recent statistics out here that, what was it, 51%?
That I was just going to ask. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. George Barna has come out and said that only 51% of people of faith are scheduled to vote in this next election. That's millions of Christians who do not vote. My question to you, Debbie, is does iVoterGuide have anything that can help, that someone can bring into their church and say, here's the issues and candidates that are in front of us, we need to engage.
We have all kinds of materials available on the Take Action part of our menu. We've got resources for the church, resources for the neighborhood. We've got C3 flyers that can go into churches, little business cards. You can subscribe to our emails and forward them. But really, it's the personal contact. You need to talk to your friends and your family and your neighbors.
Make
and
sure they go
encourage
vote.
them to vote. And to,
Be informed.
if they say, I don't know anything about the candidates, point them to iVoter Guide. It's really a Christian stewardship responsibility that we all need to bring.
And a lot of people that I've met over the years, they're embarrassed that they don't know how to even get registered. They don't. Well, okay. No, you're right. I mean,
true.
You are right.
But get past your embarrassment.
Well,
and
what
do
I was
the right
Be
thing.
bold.
Get registered to
Be
vote.
the man that asks for directions.
Yes.
Just do it.
There you go.
as I was going to say,
wow.
Okay, is they are embarrassed, and sometimes that paralyzes them. If they go to iVoter Guide, though, like some people don't even know where to go vote.
Well, on the homepage at iVoterGuide.com, you scroll down instead of entering your address for your ballot. Scroll down and find the map. Click on your state, and we've got links there for you to check in to get registered. To make sure you're registered, we'll give you the deadline of how many days you can vote or have to register before an election. In some states, sadly, you can register on election day.
Yeah.
In about half the states.
That works out well.
Place to find your polling place. We've really got everything you need to.
So in other words, you don't have to be embarrassed any longer. Yeah. Start now. All that information is there. You can start now, and nobody has to know that you haven't voted ever in your life.
Right. You can
Tim
register.
knows, but yeah,
Tim
I won't tell him.
All knowing, you can register there and register often.
Yes.
Huh? Like in big city America.
Yes.
All right, you're listening to a Share-a-thon. We're just going over some of the things we do here, folks, at AFA and AFR to try to make a difference in our culture and society. We do a lot of different things that a lot of people don't know about. But right now, we're saying we have a radio network, American Family Radio, that needs your help because we raise money 3 days in the spring, 3 days in the fall that we actually come on here and ask directly. We pass the virtual offering plate, as I say, and we ask people to make a contribution, and you can do that now. We'll take your pledge. If you want to call in and make a pledge, here's the phone number. You can call right now because we have folks standing by to answer your calls right here in our studios and offices. 877. Here's the phone. This is the phone number. 877-616-2396. Again, that's 877-616-2396. Or go to afr.net, afr.net, afr.net. Debbie, Tim, Ed, Steve, and Jenna, and we thank you for listening to American Family Radio. Let's play one of the testimonies from our listeners.
Hi, this is Catherine Hollyfield. I live in DeRidder, Louisiana. And since I became an AFR listener, praise God, I've become an informed Christian. Without you all, I wouldn't be informed and able to share the information with those I know in my church and in my prayer groups and with my friends. I love the way each program complements each other in God's Word and the events of the day, what's going on in the world. Exploring the Word is an amazing program sharing God's Word and answering Bible questions. I share the action alerts with all I can, and because of your teaching, I'm trying to do my part to be a watchman and to be a servant of Christ. Thank God for you all.
What's the phone number, Ed, for those who want to give?
It is 877-616-2396. That number to call, and we do have folks standing by in Share-a-thon Central.
Are they standing or sitting or both?
Some
are
each,
standing?
some of each.
Depends on whether they're Baptist or charismatic, probably.
Oh, whether they're standing or sitting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was where they're
But we'll take
we'll
take donations from any of them.
That's right, absolutely. 877-616-2396 is the number to call again, or you can go to afr.net.
I got some jokes. I got some Baptist, Methodist, Charismatic, Presbyterian jokes.
That's your next book, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Jokes?
It's probably inappropriate for me to have those jokes right now.
Oh, okay.
Because we're counting on all those people making donations.
Yes.
So I need to wait probably till another day. So
Yeah,
Friday.
next week.
Wait till Friday. And
Wait till Friday, and then I can come with the offensive jokes to each denomination.
There you go.
They're not offensive.
No.
I'm just, but there are some good ones though. There are some good ones. Listen, I was looking at the weather down in.
You love looking at weather.
Well, the older you get, the more you look at weather. Anyway, naturally, I don't know why that's weird, but that is the older you get, the more you look at the weather. That's just year by year. You're just like so. But I was looking at the weather and I typed in Siesta Key, Florida, which is Sarasota area. It's the beach by Sarasota. It's a beautiful place. Been there one time a few years back. But anyway, they are bullseye for our ground zero for the onshore appearance of the hurricane Milton. Anyway, what I wanted to point out, not that anybody cares but me, but you can at least act in.
Oh, other old people care, Tim.
Okay.
So you go right ahead.
You've always heard about the calm of the eye of the storm and the hurricanes.
Yeah.
This is the weather prediction for the rest of the day and evening for Siesta Key, and I hate to see it. I'm watching it on. I hate to see that place. I hope it isn't destroyed, but obviously I hope it's not. But it's a very beautiful beach. But listen to this. What I'm about to give you are the wind speeds for tonight. Okay, 6 p.m. 32. This is where the hurricane's supposed to come on shore, right nearby. Wind speeds 6 o'clock, 32 miles per hour. 7 o'clock, 35 miles per hour. 8 o'clock, 57 miles per hour. These are sustained winds, I think. 9 p.m. tonight, Siesta Key by Sarasota, 85 mile an hour winds. Okay, now. Then 10 p.m. it goes down to 59. And from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, it goes from 59 miles an hour to 4.
Wow.
That's
the eye.
Yeah. Can you imagine the eye? So it's stopping. Basically, the wind stops from going 85 miles an hour to nothing. And then guess what? 12 o'clock, like an hour later, it's back up to 60 miles an hour. And then 1 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be 85 miles an hour again. I'm just saying that would be you hear about the eye of the calm, and that's exactly what's going on.
Surreal.
We need
is the wind coming back? Doesn't it rotate back from the other direction?
Circular.
Well, yeah,
It's
you'll get
counterclockwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It'll come from the other direction because it goes in a circle. So we need a meteorologist in here.
I'm close.
I think Tim's that.
Tell you because I'm looking at my weather app and it says for Sarasota, Florida, at 6 p.m. tonight there's a 78% chance of rain. I'm pretty sure it's 100, but they're saying 78.
That's kind of odd. That is odd.
The whole night, the whole evening, it's 60, 80, 75. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's going to be a bad situation. No way around it.
Pray for those folks.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Steve, Ed, we thank you. Brent Creeley, our producer. We appreciate you listening to Share-a-thon here on American Family Radio. Who's coming up next? Brother Todd Herman, on the way. He'll carry you through the next hour here on American Family Radio. Take care, everybody. See you later.